going for the Hail Mary shot. Pick a card. I didn't need a dog. I just needed my boy Peaks. We put him down quick. Let's go. What we got here is a full-blown show. All right.
He looks like an Ace Ventura right now, dude, when he's got his hair all spiked up. There's no lion team, but there is me. And it was caught in the bushes, and I saw it just drop. I'm like, this doodle was just hanging out in a pine tree between Ruth and I, and when I walked up, got one to start today. Little dog, big farts. Halloween is by far my best and favorite time to get out. Had one day, that's the day. It's Halloween, baby.
Let's go. So tell the people about where you harvested your 7-point.
Yeah. It's I mean, I already said it once, but yeah. So it's a property actually really close to where we live. It's nice and convenient. I've been hunting there for 6 years probably now. Yeah, I mean,
It's been a while.
How many bucks have you shot there?
this is the first one.
Because you shot one that ran to a road and then
Correct.
someone stole it, right? Was that the same property?
Same property. That was my first year hunting it. Also Halloween night. Shot the buck. Knew exactly where he was going to run across the road in bed. It's state land, so I was like, okay, it's fine. I'll be able to go get him in the morning. Don't have to worry about any property lines, yada, yada. But when I got there in the morning, I followed the blood trail, and sure enough, blood, hair, everything right on the side of the road. Not a drop or nothing the rest of the way. So to my conclusion, that deer got picked up by somebody.
Jim Bob
Joe
and the boys.
Snow and Gronk.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was the most heartbreaking situation because
And that was your first buck.
That's actually the most proficient hunter of all time, though. You don't have to invest in any of the equipment. You just get a 8-point.
dude,
It's kind of nice.
Take pictures and
That's
send it to your buddies.
Gummer.
yeah. He's standing there on the side of the road, like, look at this monster.
Yeah, so that was a big heartbreaker. That wasn't the first buck I've shot. When I was 14 was the first year I could bow hunt by myself here in Michigan. Shot one at my grandma's, a 6-point. I was sitting on the ground. Woke up because I got out there way too early. I was too eager. Fired up and got out to the stand. Well, got out to the ground at like probably 2 hours before daylight. Couldn't stay awake the whole time. So I literally passed out, woke up to this 6-point. I swear to God, at like 7 yards, making a scrape in front of me. I about pooped my pants. And I had my younger cousin with me too, who was in blue jeans and a camo jacket. We're both sitting against this big white pine.
Which cousin?
My cousin Bailey.
I don't know if I know Bailey.
Yeah,
Onward.
Aunt Heather's son.
Gotcha.
But yeah, shot that one. Good blood. All of a sudden it was monsoon rain, and we bumped him once, my dad and I, and never found him.
Just fed the yotes.
Sadly, yeah. And so yeah, I've been feeling like I've been cursed this whole time since that
This
first
is
one.
at the same spot, right?
No, this was down at my grandma's down in Ludington, a couple hours away.
Gotcha.
What were you drawing at 14?
50 or so pounds.
Kid's a gorilla, for real.
But yeah, so ever since that situation, like I felt like I've been definitely cursed by the deer gods or whatever. But so then 6 years ago, I started hunting this property. First year, shot a doe a couple days into season. I was pretty fired up. It's going to be a good spot. Seen some good deer. And shot that buck that got picked up on the side of the road. And so I'm just thinking more curse. Like, I'm just hosed. Something's wrong. And then fast forward to 3 years ago, one more crappy situation. Had one of the trespassers, this little kid. He's probably, 12, 14 or so. He's walking around the farm field. And all of a sudden I see from across the field this massive, like 8 or 9 coming across. This is during the rut, and he was looking for does, and this little kid's just walking along the wood line on the field.
Should have sniped him.
Dude, I was like hollering for him to like hear me, because I see this deer like 200 yards away, and I was like, oh, dude, like, I'm like, kid, like, hey, I'm trying not to yell, but like also want this dude's attention. He had headphones on. He gets to the base of my tree, and he finally hears me, and he's looking around for me. I'm like, dude, I promise I'm not messing with you, but get in the damn woods. There's a deer running across the field right now. Get in the woods. And he's like, are you, where are you talking? I'm like, dude, just please get in the woods. I'm thinking maybe I can get this kid to hide, and I'll be able to shoot this buck. I don't know. Finally, he jumps in the woods, and the buck runs over to just the west of me into a different piece of the woods. And I was like, okay, like, I'm like, hey, dude, I'm up here. We talk, and I'm like, hey, you're trespassing, yada, yada. He books it. I'm, like, losing my shit. I'm like, well, this sucks. I think I called Nino, and I'm in the tree still. I'm like, dude, you never believe what just happened, man. And tell him, and literally the buck comes out of the woods to the tree line, and I'm like, dude, Nino, I got to go. He's coming back. Put the phone away, and that buck gets literally right to where that kid went into the woods, right underneath my stand, and peaced out because he smelled the freaking kid's foot.
Oh my
Prince.
God, dude.
It sounds crazy, all these situations, but I swear, like, I've been cursed.
That's believable though, for real. Like if
Yeah.
that kid's down there, he's gonna smell that scent off
Totally.
the kid's broke ass duck boots or whatever. And
Okay, like, yeah,
So-
we
he
can-
came out the fucking park, dog.
yes, he did.
So going into this season though, like what was your mindset? Were
So
you, like,
I
have
mean,
all this
even
shit?
like a little bit more, because there's, like I said, I got plenty of background. So last year, I did scout a decent amount. This is year 5 now. Last year was of hunting the same piece. It's about 70 acres of woods. I scouted it hard. Had a really big 9-point on
Big.
camera.
Big dude, like
And
for
I
real big.
I have really good trail cam video of him, so you could even cut that in. I can send it to you. So I was trying to get him patterned out, had him all summer. I knew exactly what his game plan was. And usually here, right around bow season start, October 1st, they'll change up from their summer plans to they're doing a little bit different.
The horny plans.
No, not yet, but they start doing a little different stuff and changing up their routines, and that's exactly what he did. Like, instantly flipped a switch. He was no longer in there middle of the day. Like, wasn't bedding in this same spot every time. And I didn't see him. I saw some other good bucks I passed, and I was like, dude, this is what I want. The last day of private doe season with a rifle, Pete and I went out, pulled my stand. I was like, let's bring a rifle too, just in case. Ended up shooting a doe, and Pete literally sees all these other deer running across the field, and then behind him, we're probably 200 yards away. Behind all those does, we see the big buck from last year, and his horns were huge. And I was like, sick to my stomach, but at the same time, I was happy that he made it through season, because this was, like I said, the last day.
Yeah, it was like literally the 30th or the 31st.
It was
Like
the 31st.
Yeah, it was late.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, like, he's got to make it through tomorrow, and then he's home free if he doesn't get hit by any cars, which is a big risk at this piece because it is heavy populated area. But going into this year, I really didn't scout at all. Like, getting married this year, buddy's getting married, like, didn't scout, and plus having a bird dog, didn't put much time into the deer. Pete and I sat a couple times this year. We'd see some does. Nothing too crazy. I saw like a little 4-point. But then with Pete getting into bow hunting and everything this year, I was like, hey, man, like, the best time, like, my favorite day, if I have any day, is Halloween. Like, if you can go Halloween. And Halloween comes around, I had a work meeting that was supposed to be late, and I was like, dude, I'm going to get hosed. Thank the Lords. They called it early. We got done. I literally closed my computer, ripped out, and I called Pete on the way home to go change. And I'm like, hey, like, going out to the stand. If you want to go, we got to go now, and we got to get in there quick. And he's like, yeah, dude, I can't. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going.
I owed the old lady some love. We had planned to give candy out to trick-or-treaters all night, and we had one show up. So that was a good use of time. That was pretty cool.
But, yeah, I just hurried up, ran home, got changed, got out there, and one of the neighboring fields planted corn this year, and it's not where I normally would hunt. But with him having corn there, I was like, okay, I got to get closer to this corn because that's where I've been seeing all these deer the previous sits before this happened. And I snuck all the way through, bumped one doe. Wind was perfect, so she didn't know it was me, but she knew she could hear me like kind of getting through because I was not quiet because I was already running behind. Found the perfect tree, climbed up.
So you had to set your whole equipment, like your sticks, your saddle, all of that was set up that night.
Yeah, I had it all in my backpack and set up quick. And before I could even get my bow up, I was about to get my bow up, and this like 3-4 point I just happened to look up. I don't know why, but I did. He's literally at like 20 yards coming straight at me. I'm guessing he thought it was another deer, beginning of the rut kind of, and he wanted to come check it out. So I just had to stand off with him when I was trying to get my bow up, and I saw a couple does behind him about 50, 60 yards, and I was like, oh, sweet. Like, this is a good chance tonight. They're already moving. They're fired up. He finally circled away, got my bow up, settled in. Wind was good for my location, blowing away from the corn into the neighbor's field and, like, away from all the bedding, so it was, like, perfect. Had that first encounter when I was trying to get the bow up, and then also had some does out and a little bit farther off, and then maybe
so you could see all of them at this point. So like you're seeing the buck come in, but you're seeing does behind him.
Yeah, that little one.
Well, he's not even talking about his buck yet. He's just talking about a buck that he sees in the field, not the one.
Gotcha.
But just a buck that he had to stand off with and shit. But that sounds like more action than we've seen sitting together. Like, we've seen deer here, deer there, but, like, you had a good night of action up to this point.
Literally from the get-go, it was guns a-blazing.
Dude.
So I was fired up.
Like, right when you came in.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
As soon as I entered the field or entered the woods, trying to sneak to where I was going to set up, like, I busted this one doe, and she just ran a little bit farther. Kept walking because I had my spot I wanted to get to, and she bumped her again, and finally she went off to like the dead center of this piece of woods, and that's when I finally found my spot where I was going to set up and had that encounter, and then get finally settled in, and next thing you know, probably like 40 minutes later, see a doe about 100 yards out. Also keep in mind, like, this piece of woods 2 years ago got selective cut, and it's really thinned out, so you can see everything now.
But that'll come into play later when we talk about getting the deer out of there.
Yeah.
Because, my God.
It definitely added a thick layer to getting it out. But also, like, a lot of the undergrowth and shrubs and everything have grown up to, 6 foot tall or so.
What are you doing over there, buddy?
Putting in a dinger.
Oh, God.
Quick oil change.
Quick oil change.
Quick little oil change. They call that the Jiffy Lube right there, boy.
But, yeah, so I you can see pretty much, like, side to side on this piece, even though, the center rectangle, I guess, is pretty much like 40 acres. But,
like, having the past you have with this spot, right?
Yeah.
Like, all these years, and you go in there on Halloween and going crazy right after rip, right? What makes you wait for your buck other than like seeing the buck that's coming in? Like, why are you not like, oh, I'm gonna put this guy down. You know.
He was just a small, like 1-2-year-old, like 4-point, just a little guy. So one, he's illegal here in the state of Michigan. Up here in Grand Traverse County and a lot of the northern parts, has to have 3 points on a side at least.
And you get a combo tag up here, so it's 3 points or better for one of your deer. But if you fill that tag, you have to get 4 on a side or better after that. So you can only shoot basically. I guess you could shoot a 5-point technically. If
You
it
can
had
shoot a 3.
3 and 2.
It could be just a 3-point.
Or yeah, right. If you had a mutant deer, you could have a 3.
It could be broken off.
Fair, but either way,
Says the new guy over here.
fair
just getting
enough.
into it.
Yeah, I'm just getting into it. But you have to have 3 on a side or better for one deer, and then the combo tag gives you 3 on a side or better for one, and then 4 plus.
So at this
So,
point,
yeah.
you're like, all right, I see this buck, but
It was
you're waiting for
I'm
waiting-
something bigger.
it was a 4-point, so it only had 2 on one side, so he couldn't shoot it.
Legally, I couldn't.
Gotcha.
But also just with
Legally, I couldn't. You say that like you're like,
no. But what I'm also getting into is like I've had bad luck, whether it's just the deer gods or me doing stupid stuff, growing up and learning in hunting.
Like Pete is doing.
Right. Like
hey,
I've waited this long to shoot a good buck. Why shoot like a tiny little like 1.5, 2-year-old buck? Yeah, he might be legal, but like I've waited this long. I've passed plenty of those.
yeah, that's fair.
So let's just suck it up. And like I said, like I saw the doe about 100 yards or so, running out like farther from me, going through where I've known historically they've been bedding. Saw her go through. Didn't really think too much about it. But then again, it's the rut, so I was like, somebody's got to be following her. Sure enough, there's another body I see going through the brush.
Was she acting spooky, like she was getting chased down?
Yeah, she was definitely moving fast, looking to get away from something.
Gotcha.
And so I pulled up the binos real quick, could see through like the trees and the shrubs and everything. And I saw just white horns, and they were like outside his ears. And I was like, oh, damn, like they're chasing. You can sometimes like call at him to make him think it's another buck around. But he had one thing on his mind, and it was her.
It was that tuna.
Did you have your GoPro with you at this point?
No, I didn't have anything. I just had my stuff to shoot a deer.
Because you were running behind it.
Yeah.
As it was.
Straight
right?
straight from work. It was no stop home. It was.
Logan said
out
it's
to the
Halloween.
field.
I'm going
Yeah.
out.
Totally.
Which he said since before I even got into hunting, which is this year primarily, but I was starting to get curious last year. Even before that, Lowe's like, Halloween's my night. Like, that's the night I go out. Halloween's sweet. So, it was Halloween.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to film. Like, I was more worried about just getting a deer and rush out there. And I see that happen. They kind of go across down to the south. I'm looking towards the east, and they're staying in the woods, but I lost them through all the thick stuff. So I was like, okay, maybe she'll circle around, just give it time. Because, like I said, they get one thing on their mind, and
That tuna.
and it's sometimes just a matter of if that doe comes by you. And sure enough, like 40, I don't even know how long, but shortly after, all of a sudden, like from the corn, they somehow got back around me all the way to the north. And then from the corn, she comes running out and just looking around like she's on. Like, I mean, you haven't seen it, Chris, but, and Pete, I guess you really haven't either, but they act like they know something's after them or they're trying to run, but they almost act the same when they're like spooked by humans, somewhat.
I saw it at the farm. Not the one that the buck that I followed in, but the one before that ran to the north. She was definitely getting chased. You remember?
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah,
one?
yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they're moving with purpose, trying to get away.
Yeah, they look like freaked out for real. Like they're they're getting chased by something that's trying to kill them. Is what it looks like. I mean,
Not necessarily kill them, but something's just. I mean, the bucks aren't just out there to kill them.
but that's what they look like. They look
Yeah.
they look like they're in fear of their life a
Totally.
little bit.
So she's definitely looking around, all frantic. Didn't see that buck anywhere. She walks to like the perfect spot. Oh, this is another great little key to the story. I didn't have my rangefinder. I left it in Pete's truck from like a couple days before we were scouting, and we hunted before we scouted. So I left it in there
I think I texted you that day, and I was like,
day before.
"Oh yeah, yeah." And I was like,
'Cause-
"Yo, your rangefinder's in my truck."
And I was like, no, don't worry. Like I'll go grab it tonight.
But then you were late because of work, so then you had to rush to the.
I didn't even think about it until I got it into the stand. So I knew once I was set up, I was like, okay, well, it's got to be inside of this window because this seems about 20 yards. I don't want to shoot any farther. I don't want to have any more mistakes. That doe came right through my trail, like where I marked out pretty much 20 yards. And all of a sudden, like when she's out there, I hear just like grunting coming up from the corn.
Oh, you heard? Grunt?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Dude.
He was fired up.
That's
He's
sweet.
just grunting a storm up, and he comes in, and he's kind of between, like, with the saddle. I'm sitting like facing the tree, like Chris, I guess you don't know. So like I'm sitting towards the tree instead of away from it, like in a tree stand, and I have her off here. He's coming across me like this, and he gets pretty much right behind my tree, and I'm watching her to make sure she doesn't bust me. And literally, she just stares me right in the face as I'm holding my bow.
So is this northwest of where you're at or southeast? Because I know the tree. Like, I know where you shot him. Was it on the...
That would technically be due east of where I was sitting.
Okay, gotcha.
So
she stares at you right in the face.
oh yeah, instantly
So
pins me.
you're having to stare off with her.
Yep.
And you're just like
I'm holding on to my
dead.
bow.
You're dead.
You gotta breathe slow. Like, you can't move twitch. For
Yeah,
real.
you definitely like. It's a mind game more than physicality, because like your body can hold a position or is stronger than you think, but like the whole time you're like shaking, also trying to keep it together.
So
And-
if she busts you and takes off, you're
Because the buck's got eyes on her, right?
right.
So if she takes off and the
Right.
buck sees it, he's chasing
He
that tail.
And he could-
gotcha.
And he could potentially run a different way than down
He
my
d-
little alley.
Gotcha.
He doesn't care about anything but her.
Yep.
At this point in the rut, he doesn't care about anything but that doe. So if that doe takes off, he's right behind it, especially if he sees it.
Yeah, like
So really, she's
you worry more
she's
about
the
that.
game right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she looked away a couple times to just eat some leaves and browse around. And so like I'd try to like slip a quick peek at him to see what he's doing, and the whole time he's just staring right at her. And I'm like, at least it's good he's not, hey, what are you looking at? Like, I should look at it too. No, he probably didn't even cross his mind. And finally, like, honestly, it felt like 15, 20 minutes. Probably wasn't that long, but it felt like that. And I'm sitting there shaking my bow. She decides it's safe enough to walk off. Oh, we got Ruthie up in here.
Hi, Ruthie. Come here.
What's up, Bubs? There's my dog, Ruthie. You've seen her in some of the videos.
The parrot of the group.
Yep.
Little
What's up,
dog,
Bubba?
Little dog, big farts.
Yep.
Hi, baby girl.
What's up, Bubs? But yeah, so we there's Benson.
You know him from the meadows.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. So you're looking at her, and she's right in front of you, right on the ground.
Yeah,
right?
like
and he's
20.
behind you.
Yep. Well, no, so if we're going to like map it out, it'd be sweet if we had like a chalkboard or even a map. Yeah. We should get a TV that we can map it out.
That'd be sick.
And I have a spare TV if Pete wants to put it up right here. But yeah, so I'm here. We'll say for lack of, say I'm here. She's here, and he's right here, right behind the tree.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm watching her. She's just off of the alley that I said I would shoot at, and he's like 5 feet from walking right down it. So then when she finally felt safe, she took a couple steps, like walking away, and then I knew that was game time for me to, like, we got to make a play. I swing out my saddle because I got pinned by her, so I was like really in a weird position. So then she walks off, and I get into position. He's staring her down, not even thinking anything about me, and I hurry up. He steps out, and I mean, honestly, like, he wouldn't stop. I grunted at him. I said, "Hey," and he didn't stop. And
So why were you saying that?
trying to get him to stop because he was just trying to chase her down.
Gotcha.
And I didn't want to take, like...
So you were already ready. You're just
Yes,
saying,
I was at full draw.
Yeah.
And I was like...
So you're saying stop for him to look at you and just...
Or just stop moving.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
Deer are smart. Like, once they figure out that you're human, they'll spook. But when you say, like, when you make a noise, they're kind of like, what was that? You know? And,
Yeah.
and if they pin you and you move, then they'll peace out quick. But if you say it while they're not looking, they might be like,
But that's...
what was that noise? And so he's trying everything he can do to get that buck to stop. But that buck's like, I see that tail. I'm chasing that tail.
Exactly. And so, I mean, did that. Nothing really happened. He didn't care. And so, like, the opportunity was kind of slipping away. He wasn't, like, running. He was just a swift walk, I guess. And it was only 20 yards. I mean, modern bows, they're great. They shoot fast. And
Logan's drawing 80, so he can shoot.
I mean,
I'm just saying, you have range.
I'm not, yes. And also, I'm shooting really heavy arrows. So, like, if I do hit a bone, I'm not too concerned at all. I shoot fixed blades.
He'll move that buck back by about 10 yards.
Okay.
It's gonna skirt it. There's gonna be burnout marks on the old pavement, you know.
Yeah. So I take my shot, and I mean, it happened so fast. Like, I saw the end, like, saw it hit him, saw it go through in my mind, and he mule kicks good, books it about 10 yards, and just stands and looks around like, what the heck happened? So I was like, again, kind of freaking out internally, like, did I hit him far back? Like, what was up? And he was kind of quartering away, so you kind of had to shoot a little bit farther back to get the vitals and everything. But it's more just like him moving, so I thought I messed up. Called Pete, and I was like, dude, I hit him farther back. Like, we're giving him at least till dark. It's only 5:20 at this time, which dark around here at that time was like 7:10. And, like, I said, don't get here until that time.
Which was good because your boys.
Okay,
We're spending some
Cut.
time. We're spending some time with the old lady. We had some things to take care of.
I was gonna say you're passing out candy, but yeah, we
dude.
can go with that.
It is what it is. I wasn't vulgar, but the truth of the matter was I had some things to take care of at home.
I think
So it was
exact words when I was on the phone with him was, I have something I got to take care of here at home first, and then I'll be out there. I'm like, yeah, don't rush. He goes, okay, good. Later did I find out that he was
Dude, I gave
planting the seed.
I gave that deer at least 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, so, like, all those thoughts and worries are going through my head. In my mind, I shot him far back. But I did watch him when after he made that first initial stop. I watched him run into a tree or two, and with them select cutting this piece, like, the loggers left a bunch of wood piles out there of, like, sticks and brush and everything. And after he hit the second tree, he, like, caught his antlers in one of those piles and, like, was fighting to get up. And you could, when you hit a deer good, you can tell, like, they kind of have a drunk stumble. Like, kind of sad to see, but it all happens really quick if you do it properly.
Yeah, I would say like every sign pointed to a good shot. Like the mule kick, the
Right.
stumbling through, all that. Maybe not a good shot, but the fact that you definitely hit it.
Oh,
which,
yeah,
which
yeah.
you knew, but all of that kind of shows like, yeah, it was, you shot the deer. He's hurting because deer are very quick. They're nimble through the woods.
Totally.
Otherwise, so
I
running
mean-
into trees and stuff. At that point, Logue knew that at least his arrow passed through him. Not necessarily knowing how great of a shot it was, but at that point knew, okay, I hit him. He's probably down.
Yeah, and like you're not wrong at all. Like all those signs are, hey, you had a great shot. Like that deer's not going far. But in my mind, I saw the wound on his body. I was like, that's far back.
Well,
Plus-
and all the years of this spot, you're like, there's no way he drops,
Yeah.
Within sight.
quick, and I can get
Yeah,
him.
And like the whole it happens fast, I didn't realize until that. And we'll talk about it, but the 6 point I missed, like it happens fast. It happens quick. Like the whole leading up to it is in slow motion. But the second you have a window to shoot, it happens in a millisecond, it feels like. It goes quick.
Yeah. And so just like you said, Chris, like everything in my mind, like I'm falling back on these years of bad luck, whatever. And like I just didn't think it was that great, but I knew it was good. I just didn't want to bump him. So then he left this property, and then I got to go ask neighbors if, hey, we can
So
access it.
Or some
explain
guy
that to
from
Feegs. Like
or,
the
or
fact
some guy from Gone picks him up.
Exactly. And like, so if
Hey.
he crosses lines like onto somebody else's property, you should go ask. Like, I think legally you have to. Definitely morally you should.
which is crazy because technically the property owner could just claim the buck. Like if you shoot a deer and they fall on someone else's property, if it's private, they could just be like, no.
Well,
and
you
then
can
go collect the deer and it's theirs technically.
contact the DNR
Oh, okay.
and they
I
can
didn't
claim
know
it
this
for
part.
you.
Okay,
That's like last resorts.
that's a lot of drama, but
Right. Exactly. It's just something you don't want to deal with. So that's why I was
you want to
just
know
taking
your
that extra
neighbors
time.
of the hunting property. You want to know your neighbors because if there's some weird
Bad
Jim
blood
Bob
or whatever.
two shoes, it's like. But anyhow, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good, and you're totally right. Like you got to know your people. So that's why I just wanted him to die peacefully on this piece, so I didn't have to worry about any of that. And we sat it out. Actually, right before dark, I'm 90% sure I saw the big one I was after last year. He didn't care about a grunt call, didn't care about a doe can, nothing. I was like, damn. But we're almost to dark, so I don't want to try to like entice him too much because if he gets here at dark, then I can't do anything about it.
If that dude's still in those woods, he is a monster too. Like
Yeah.
he's he was
Yeah.
a monster last year when we
Yeah.
saw him. He's big, dude.
He's a big boy. But anyways, it was about dark, and that dark hits. I pull all my stuff, get back down to the ground, and in my mind, this is where I shot him. Didn't pace it out, nothing, but like
So where's Pete at this point?
Pete's still at home. So Pete's at home, and
I haven't said anything that is R-rated to this point.
yeah, but just
saying.
ridiculous. So
So Pete's not here yet. You
Pete's-
called him already before the sun
Yep.
went down.
I
But you're
called
sitting
him.
up there
Immediately,
waiting
immediately,
till the
dude.
sun down.
Dude, the cool thing was because like he was sitting solo, so there was no like talking about it in the stand. But he called me quick, and I could still hear it in his voice, like the excitement, the tremble. Like I could hear the adrenaline literally coursing through him, which was pretty cool. He's like, "Oh, Pete, I think I definitely shot him. He's gonna go down, but could have been a gut shot. I don't
To
know."
the great Luke
but-
Bryan. Is he down?
Is he down?
Is he down? So, yeah, I mean, Pete's not wrong at all. Like, dude, you shake like no other.
Maintaining that adrenaline's tough, dude. It's
Yeah.
tough. It's crazy. Like when there's a big buck, and not even a big buck, but like a legal
deer.
buck in front of you,
A
Bro,
deer, dude.
you-
Does get me.
you draw your bow like it's 15 pounds. It's crazy. It's such a big difference.
Yeah. It's dark.
Pete's still passing out candy.
Yeah, Pete's passing out candy. He was on his way though.
Yeah, passing out candy.
Okay.
I was passing out that Snicker.
Anyways,
King size.
Nice.
I just dumped a quarter beer down my fucking gullet. It's fine. This is the Peloton room.
Peyton's gonna kick your ass. She's gonna give you that Snicker.
Hopefully.
Anyways, I was trying to at least mark on Onyx where I thought I shot that deer, so then when we go back, we're not totally fumbling through the woods in the dark. I marked it. In my head, that's where it was. Go out to Pete. My headphone battery was about dead. Or not headphone, my headlamp batteries were about shot. So I was like, hey, let's go to the store, grab some fresh batteries, and then we'll come back. Plus, he'll give him time because I'm still thinking he was shot bad or farther back. Make that all happen, get back there. We're looking around where I thought the arrow would be. We walked where I thought the deer went. Get back. I'm like, all right, let's start from square one again. Let's find this arrow.
Yeah,
and Pete finally smartens up, and he's like, dude, I paced it out. It's only 10 yards. I'm like, that's not anywhere close. Like, it was definitely 20 at least.
Yeah, so we were looking at, like, where Logue thought he shot it, and we couldn't find blood sign, which was weird because Logue said, like,
I knew I hit him.
The deer took a few steps, mule kicked, stood, and Logue saw the hole in it. So there should be blood sign. Good shot, bad shot, doesn't matter. There should be blood sign. So we're looking, there's nothing. And Logue was like, well, I know it got stuck in a brush pile at one point with his antlers. I know that it hit a tree. So we're kind of looking the direction of where that would have been at. There's no sign of that. We walk probably 30 yards maybe. We're like, all right, let's go back to square one. And I didn't even say, like, I did pace it out and everything, and I had a feeling, but didn't say much. And then I was like, I'm going to go look for your arrow. To not say, like, you're wrong about where the pin was at, whatever, but went around the backside. And the second I go around the backside through this, like, thicker brush, there's
some raspberries.
just blood sign everywhere. Coagulated too, which means that it hit the
Been a
lungs
while.
because it's got oxygen in it.
Bubbly.
Bubbly. That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, coagulated would mean that it's
Been there for a while.
yeah, yep. So it
Which it
had
was.
the bubbles in it, and I was like, oh, right here. And the second we looked, there was blood everywhere.
You couldn't miss it.
It was a good. At that point, I was like, Logo, it was a fucking good shot. There's bubbles. It was a great shot.
And one great telltale sign also is, like, if you can find your arrow, like, you can see what kind of blood is on the arrow. And, like, kind of gross, but a true way to tell. You can smell your arrow. If it stinks, you got guts.
Right, which is tough.
And it didn't smell at all. So I was like, okay, we're good.
Especially with the time that Logue waited, which is the right way to do it, because you could bump a deer, which means that the deer's not full on its way to see Jesus, our Savior, but he's hurting, right? So, anyhow, well, I don't even know what I was saying right there.
But yeah, we found good blood. Pete found my arrow, and literally it was instantly big patch, and then where we saw him stop, there was like a giant pool. And so a lot of those bad feelings instantly went away. We go around and we're like, okay, this is where he hit the first tree. There's blood on the trees, everything. And I look up, and with the headlamp, I could see like an eyeball. And I was like, sweet, dude, there he is. Like,
Yeah.
got fired up. Probably wasn't as fired up. Maybe, like, I haven't watched the video at all, but, like, I feel like it was kind of anticlimactic because I also was, like, so, like, in my head.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time looking on where he thought he shot it and trying to figure that out. So by the time we regrouped and came back, some time had passed for sure. And we definitely, by going to the market to get you some batteries for the headlamp and that kind of stuff, there was a lot of time that had like 2 hours at this point.
Oh, yeah, easy 2 hours.
Yeah, because you guys called me at like
9.
I thought it was late. It was
late, dude.
It was late.
It was 9 because I left at 11. We called when we first started cleaning.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We got back. So that was a fun drag out of the woods because all that cut and
Yeah, so
everything.
Back to the brush, dude.
I don't.
There was stacks of sticks through the whole thing, and like you would like really reef to get it over some down sticks and stuff like that, and then I would stumble and fall, and the deer was on top of me. It was a bitch. It was so much
So
work.
dramatic. It did
But it was
suck.
it was so much work to get that out of there.
Yeah, it was a lot more work. It was, I mean, we maybe
should-
had to drag it 75 to 100 yards at most, but like just because that cut.
And he only made it like 65 from where
Yeah,
you shot him. Like
yeah.
it was that piece of property's interesting. So there's a lot of deer, a ton of deer in there. Does, bucks, there's a ton, but it's not the biggest piece of property. It's just perfect. There's a big field. There's low points for them to bed in. There's good food. There's corn, all that kind of stuff. And so it's a really good hunting property, but it's not that big. So none of this was like a big trek to get it out of there. But my God, it was a B.
Yeah, she was tough.
So how do you feel about this property? Like now that you've shot a buck there,
Like I've honestly always loved it. Like a lot of other buddies that I hunt with, Hunter, Nino, like all these people, like, dude, just like give it up, because I've had so many like crappy situations with trespassers and this, that, and the other. But like same time, whether these bucks live on that piece of property or they're bucks coming in to find the does that live on it, always during the rut, there's bucks coming through.
And there's good sign everywhere.
Yeah,
Good scrapes, good rubs. There's a lot of worthwhile stuff to look at in that property.
yeah, and there used to be a lot more before they cut it. But there used to be a lot like more natural trails. Like you'd see highways like easy for deer to travel. But since they cut it, like it's kind of free for all. Like they have all this ground.
so
True.
you shot your buck and you're ecstatic. You're like, all right, I finally shot a buck in this spot that you've been after for
I mean,
years,
dude, that-
right?
And it was a big 7. Like
Yeah, it was
for,
a damn great 7 point.
for northern Michigan. It was
Yeah,
it was outside the ears. It was tall.
had
it
a
was
big old neck
good-
on him, big body.
So then do you immediately transition to like, okay, I know Pete's first season, he wants to get a buck. What's left in here? What's still traveling through here? You know,
I don't think we've set that property since.
We haven't, and it's kind of been irking me because I do know that big one's in there.
Yeah, right. That's tough.
but you're going after another one this season, right?
But it's
I would like to, yeah.
that's Logue's buck to harvest. The big one. If I shot that, I would feel a little dog shit, because it's Logue's worked that so hard to make it like to study, figure out patterns, all that kind of stuff, that if I sat in a stand for one night and I shot the buck that he's been after for, I mean,
But you know what?
that big buck's
You know what? Like, if you shot it over one of the neighbors,
fair.
I'd be a lot more happy
Fair.
knowing at least one of the boys got it.
Fair, but the timing was kind of perfect, because at the time, so my stepdad owns that property. He also owns Buffalo Farm, and he gave us permission to hunt it. And it's a lot more acreage. There's a lot more deer total on it. And so it was worth scouting and sitting and that kind of shit, you know? Like, it was just...
So you've obviously been around the block deer hunting, right? Pete's first season. So do you mind touching on, knowing him I don't know where you're sitting this season, but going out, and obviously you have seen your first couple sits, and then what happened the other day with you guys were both sitting on that day, right?
Yeah, so up until Logue shot the 7 point, I was filming for him, and I just couldn't that night, which sucks donkey balls, because it was the night that
the
he
first thing I
connected.
said,
Yeah,
the
I
first
mean,
thing
it's
I
life, dude.
I asked was like, "Oh, dude, did you guys get this one?" And you were like, "No, I didn't."
Yeah, that's the way it goes. But
Now we switch roles, though.
yeah, since then, like, I call it, 'cause I'm a dork. I'm like, oh, I'm primary shooter now, which is fucking hunky dory, kind of dorky. But like where we sit, if a deer sneaks in on us back door, Logue's, especially being in the saddle, being more mobile, he can shoot on the back door. I really can't. Like I would have to really get around the tree for it. And so we made a lane for Logan to be able to shoot if that happened. And we sat at where we picked on the farm property.
It's a great transition piece. We have Cedar Swamp right next to us.
And
we
a
have
creek.
a bunch of which has a creek running through it. Runs right along the pens, which they go through. I mean, we set up a camera on the gate, watching them on the trail camera, going underneath the gate. And literally in like 2 nights, we had like 85 pictures of deer, coyotes, everything. And so it's a perfect piece for the rut.
Yeah,
And
it's good.
we got Pete set up in the right spot. It's a freaking highway and a half, beat down trail. Literally looks like the buffalo been walking it, but it's all deer. And literally, like, this was the first morning we sat it. And Pete's,
Was it?
yeah, no, it was the afternoon we sat first.
Yeah, we sat a Saturday afternoon, and then it was Sunday morning.
Sunday-
that I missed. Yeah.
We sat at a different spot Saturday.
Oh, right.
Saturday morning,
Right.
which I rattled in a buck, and I told him, I was like,
Oh my
hey,
God.
when I start to rattle, like, be ready.
As a first-year deer hunter, it was just it ended up being a spike. It wasn't anything. It wasn't legally worth shooting. It wasn't anything worth shooting anyway. But we're sitting up there, dude, and there wasn't a lot of action. But where we were at was like in between 2 big ridges, and so the bucks will go along the ridges, looking down, trying to find their does and stuff. And so we're sitting up there, and Logan's like, when I hit, he has the black antlers, whatever, and he goes, when I start rattling these, be ready. And I was like, yeah, whatever, okay. Log rattles them for like 5 seconds, pauses, and all you hear is I'm
From
like,
like 150, 200 yards out, you could hear this sucker just beating down a trail.
and I go, Log, what was that? He goes, shut up. Like he was like, bro, that's a fucking deer. Shut up. And I'm like, okay. And I'm sitting there. I grab my bow. I'm like, ready. And all of a sudden, this spike comes out, and like, their ability to know where like sound comes from is insane. There was wind. It wasn't crazy, but there was wind, and he comes in kind of with purpose, but slow, if you will. Like he wasn't sprinting in, but on a string. Like he
was
came
on a string.
right. He came right in. Wasn't sprinting. Walks in, looks around. There's nothing, and he walks right under our tree. Stops. Like he's like, I know where this sound came from. It was right here. And he's like looking around, nothing. He gets downwind of us and smells a little bit, and he can smell us, and he's like looking around. And he finally like looks at us, and me and Logan just, wait, what you got to do? We're perfectly still. And he just looks at us for a while, keeps walking after, turns around, looks at us, keeps going, and then eventually fucks off. And that was all we brought in. But it was like for me getting into hunting, it was so cool to be like, oh, like we gave him sign like, oh, there could be some big bucks fighting. And this little guy was like, I want to get in it, you know, like just a little worm, dude.
It literally, it could not have followed the script better.
It was
Just to
it was
show
crazy.
him.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're like, I want to shoot a buck. Like,
Wait,
you're amped up.
At that point, I was like, oh, like this rut stuff's different, right? Because they get into it, they get deep, and like he rattled, and that dude couldn't have fought anything. Like he was just a spike, but he was in it. Like he was like, I'll fight. What you want? Like he was there, bro. It was cool.
Let me have him.
And he pieced out, and then that spot that we were at was good for like bucks, but for actual like doe, like if we want to fight or not fight, but if we want to shot at a buck without bringing them in, it wasn't the perfect spot, is what we kind of figured after that hunt. And so we moved a little closer to the cedar swamp where we knew the does bedded down at, and so we sat there Sunday morning. And one doe spooked out like it was getting followed by something. And Logan was like, be ready. There might be a buck behind it. But it was too far away to shoot. So I'm standing there. I'm ready. But, you know, you have the ability to rattle a buck in or call a buck in. And so maybe we could get one. Nothing came after it. We're like, okay, whatever. All of a sudden, this doe comes in. And it ain't worth... Actually, it was a shootable doe late season.
Yeah, she wasn't.
Two
she
and a
wasn't
half
bad.
year,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, she definitely could be a little bit older, and I was proud. Like, you made the right call and didn't do it.
Yeah, so I look at Logan and I go, let's see what comes in after it. Just whisper that
Yeah.
to him. Let's see what comes in after it. And Logan's like, yeah, you're right. So we're sitting there. And nothing for a while. Like, it wasn't immediate. Probably
It wasn't immediate, but it
half
was pretty
hour.
quick. Yeah,
half hour, something like that. All of a sudden, Lo grabs the rattles, actually, grabs the antlers, and is about to go.
Yeah.
About to hit it.
And I look around the tree, and literally this buck is 20 yards through these 2 pine trees, and I literally am like, Pete, grab your bow. Just like quiet, but also trying to show him that, like, get your shit now, dude.
It's game time.
And in the
Exactly.
in the tree, like, we're talking like this, obviously, but you got to be fucking still and quiet. And so he's like, Pete, like, he's trying to be
I'm
so
not
quiet. I'm like,
85 years old, bro.
but I'm like, oh, and he's like, there's a fucking buck. And so I'm like, okay. So I go to grab my bow, and as I like look over to grab my bow, he sees us, right? Doesn't see us, but looks up at us, kinda, like looks towards us, and I just stop. I'm frozen. He comes in, and we had good cover with a couple pine trees in front of us, and so I just stay there. He ducks under the pines where he can't see us. I grab my bow, and I'm fucking ready, dude. And I'm sitting there waiting. And as he goes to make the corner around the pine trees, I draw, and I'm sitting there waiting, and he comes out into this clearing, and there's where we were at before we trimmed anything. There wasn't call to shoot at.
It was
really.
a tight gap.
Yeah, it was a tight gap, and I was like, I hope he stops right here. And he walks, and I was about to make a noise to try to get him to stop, and he just stops. Like, picture perfect. Like, you couldn't ask for more. Stops. I'm drawn at the time. I squeeze the trigger, dude, and immediately as I squeeze it, I'm like, I want to see what I did. So I'm like, and because of it, dude, I missed high and right, like exactly what you'd expect by somebody anticipating a trigger pull on a bow.
You know, I texted Logan. I was like, hey, you know, what happened? Or Logan texted me something, and he said, buck fever.
Oh, yep.
Can you speak on that a little bit? Because when you texted me that originally, I had no idea.
But I wasn't full buck fever. I wasn't shaking. I didn't miss because of a vibration. I missed because I wanted to see my result. But you were watching from a third party, so you probably know better.
That was kind of wild. Like, that was the first time I've watched and filmed for someone else. But so you can see all those little details that if you're the hunter, you aren't really paying attention to because all of a sudden it happens so fast. But I instantly saw that arrow go right over his back. And you might not call it buck fever because you're not shaking or...
But you mean buck fever as far as, like, you're so anticipating the shot or whatever that it goes high normally?
Buck fever?
No, it's just adrenaline. Buck fever is just, like, the term people use for adrenaline going through your body so fast you can't really control everything.
It's not doing what you would do with the target that I have in the backyard. The target that I have in the backyard, I shoot.
Yeah, we went out there earlier and you just laced one right into the target
It's
zone.
a lot different when it's a real animal.
I shoot 15 arrows a day this season, like trying to get good at it. Like I'm for real. Like I want to be a good shot. I don't want to wound an animal. Like that was my focus. If I shoot, I want to put something down. The second a buck stopped right where it needed to, I pulled the trigger and I was like, "What?"
See ya.
So yeah, I missed high right, and I'm actually the buck as they will they either duck or jump, right? Typically, especially he was at 30 yards. So
that's a good poke for someone that's brand new into bow hunting. 30 yards is a good poke.
But if he
like for here in Michigan,
if he doesn't wound, or if he doesn't move, I wound him, don't kill him. And he might die eventually, but not to the point where you can find him. So I'm actually very happy that he ducked.
Yeah.
I shaved
you gave him a little bit of a haircut.
A decent amount of his back.
But there's not a drop of blood, nothing, so we're fine. Watch the film. Good, clean miss. But the funniest part to me was I saw it all live action. And Pete going through just like being the hunter, like it all happened quick for him. Like he instantly looked back at me. And I'm like, you missed. Grab another arrow. Because the buck only ran like 30 yards. It was like, what the hell just happened? Pete's like, no, dude, I saw the entrance wound. I'm like, no, you missed. And like I've been in his shoes, so like I was sympathetic, and I was like, no, dude, just grab a arrow. We're gonna try to like get him to come back because he doesn't know what happened. And just the look on his face was just like,
So sad, bro.
oh, dude. Like if you've watched that Luke Bryan video of him saying, "Is he down?" That same look, but sadder.
But I missed him. Yeah.
But he missed, and he's like, dude.
The second Logan said you missed him, I was like, I missed him. Like, Logan ain't capping. There's no bullshit.
And like I told him to get that arrow. That buck, like I said, only ran like 30 yards from where Pete shot at him, and he sat there and looked around. I took out the grunt tube to see if we could just get him to come back, and he listened to it, checked us out a little bit, but then just like peaced out. And Pete turned around and just goes poof, into the tree, and I was like, dude, I said, welcome to bow hunting.
Yeah, the buck beat cheeks out of there. I fucking punched the tree. I was pissed, dude.
So, are you guys gonna go back to that same spot, or do you think like what's your best game plan moving forward?
I didn't check the camera.
You didn't?
No.
We set the
Working
trail
nuts.
cam somewhere else. Very
Literally,
close.
yeah, really close.
It's 100 yards maybe, but
Not even that.
but
like,
the clearing that we set it at had more deer.
had two really big scrapes, big highway, so it might even be like a community scrape instead of just a buck scrape. So
had more deer sign, but
it's been sitting there for a week or so.
it'll take some more effort to get a good.
The problem I'm seeing is,
Unless we have a south wind.
well, not necessarily wind. Like this time now for us, like here in Michigan, like historically, usually have like a lockdown. Those bucks will find their does, and they're shacked up with them in the bushes, and eventually they'll leave them. It becomes a little bit tougher to track them down, and
Oh, right.
they're not moving. Their ranges aren't as far during like quote unquote lockdown period. You can still get them. You can catch them slipping up, but not as much as they do like pre-rut. Like my buck was. But the nice thing is like that spot's not far from bedding at all. So like there's a great chance that we could find them just on any random day. So
Nice part about where we have our equipment right now is we haven't disturbed it since Sunday. So
right.
we're like where we're set up is still a good spot. I think where we want to set up will be a good spot, but we got to find daylight to go trim some branches and shit like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah,
I mean the saga continues. We're gonna get you onto something.